Ambassador Reyes slammed his fist down, cracking the heavy podium. Alien monarchs, senators, and oligarchs fell silent. The human's fury cut through the great galactic council chamber like a blade. Humanity had suffered decades of disrespect and oppression by the arrogant Ocampa, treated as inferior savages, fit only to be subjugated and exploited. But no more. Rhea's eyes blazed with barely contained fury as he spoke, his voice echoing with palpable force. Human rage had finally reached a boiling point. Today we stand united in our anger. Humanity will no longer bow to your tyranny. As his speech reached a crescendo, a shockwave of psychic energy erupted from Reyes, amplified by the righteous fury burning in every human heart across the stars. The wave traversed the galaxy at impossible speed, bringing every sentient to their knees. For a terrifying moment, the galaxy experienced the true depth of human wrath. In the aftermath of the Great Fury, whispers of revolution spread among the oppressed. On Earth, a renaissance of psychic potential began, with humans harnessing their newfound abilities. But the Ocampa plotted humanity's extinction, hatching a sinister plan to render Earth uninhabitable. Unknown to them, human operatives had already infiltrated their ranks. Led by brilliant Commander Cygnus, this band of rebels embarked on a perilous mission to expose the Ocampa's treachery and save humanity from annihilation. But as ancient rivalries reignited and armies mobilized, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Humanity's future teetered on the precipice between triumph and oblivion. Months before Ambassador Reyes's historic speech at the Galactic Council, Commander Cygnus led his team on a dangerous mission into the heart of Ocampa territory. The cramped confines of their stealth shuttle felt suffocating as they approached Zephyrus Prime, an Ocampa-controlled planet harboring a heavily guarded research facility. Cygnus glanced at his team, Lieutenant Marcus Vance, a master of infiltration, and Sergeant Ezra Roth, a fearless fighter. Remember, our objective is to extract intel on the Ocampa's secret terraforming project. In and out, no heroics. They nodded grimly, checking their weapons one final time before disembarking. The facility's gray, angular architecture loomed before them, patrolled by armed Ocampa guards. Vance took point, his lithe form melting into the shadows as he scouted a path inside. Once within the complex, the team split up to cover more ground. Roth stood watch as Cygnus and Vance hacked into the main database. "I'm in," Vance whispered over their comms. "Downloading files now." Cygnus's eyes widened as he scanned the decrypted data scrolling across his wrist display. "My God, it's worse than we thought. The Ocampa have engineered a bioweapon designed to target human DNA. If they deploy this on Earth..." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. "Perimeter breach! All units converge on Sector 7!" A harsh voice barked over the intercom. "Time to move," Cygnus ordered. They raced through the corridors, dodging patrols and sealing blast doors behind them. But as they neared the extraction point, a platoon of Ocampa soldiers, led by a tall, scarred figure, blocked their path. General Zorn. "Did you really think you could steal our secrets and escape unscathed?" Zorn sneered, leveling his pulse rifle. Roth lunged forward, hurling a shock grenade at the Ocampa line. The blast bought them precious seconds. "Go! I'll hold them off!" Roth yelled, his rifle spitting plasma bolts. Cygnus hesitated, torn between his duty and loyalty to his soldier. But Roth was already hit, blood seeping through his armor. "Get that data back to command!" Cygnus's teeth clenched as he nodded to Vance. They sprinted for the exit, Roth's defiant roar and the bark of gunfire echoing behind them. Vance managed to escape with the critical intelligence, but Cygnus was captured by Zorn's forces. Dragged in chains before the general, he steeled himself for the inevitable torment to come. Zorn's eyes gleamed cruelly as he circled his captive. "You will tell me everything you know about human operations against us, or you will beg for the mercy of death." But Cygnus remained stoically silent, even as agony lanced through his body from Zorn's torture devices. His mind drifted to memories of his wife and child, butchered by Ocampa raiders when he was light years away, helpless to save them. Their faces fueled his determination to endure, to deny Zorn the satisfaction of his screams. Hours blurred into days as the interrogation continued. Zorn's frustration mounted at Cygnus's unbreakable will. Enough. If you won't talk, you'll serve as an example to your pathetic species. Zorn aimed a pistol at Cygnus's head. A sudden explosion tore through the complex, alarms warbling and panicked shouts filling the halls. The door blasted open to reveal a striking female Ocampa, leading a band of armed dissidents. She dispatched Zorn's guards with a thought, their weapons wrenched away by an unseen force. "I am Lyra," she spoke into Cygnus's mind. "My followers and I have come to free you, and to stand with humanity against our corrupt leaders." Cygnus eyed her warily as she unlocked his shackles. Could he really trust one of them? But as her sapphire eyes met his, a vision unfolded in his mind's eye. Humans and Ocampa, hand in hand, ushering in an age of peace and coexistence. A future worth fighting for. He clasped Lyra's offered hand. Perhaps if more Ocampa shared her dream, there was still hope to prevent the looming war. Together they would find a way to expose the truth and unite their people against the real enemy, those who would genocide entire worlds for power and greed. Cygnus and Lyra crouched behind a ridge overlooking the Noxus research facility. The sprawling complex stretched before them, its sleek architecture a stark contrast to the barren landscape. "Security's tight," Cygnus muttered, lowering his macro binoculars, "but nothing we can't handle." Lyra nodded, her blue eyes scanning the perimeter. "There's a blind spot in their sensor grid. If we time it right..." They moved swiftly, using the facility's own shadow as cover. Cygnus marveled at Lyra's grace. For all their differences, humans and Ocampa shared a common drive. Inside, they navigated sterile corridors, ducking into alcoves to avoid patrols. Cygnus's heart raced as they neared the central database. One misstep could doom billions. "We're in," Lyra whispered, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Data streams flickered, resolving into schematics, formulas, deployment plans. Cygnus's stomach churned as the full scope of the Ocampa's genocide plot unfolded before them. "Those bastards," he breathed. "They're really going to do it." A klaxon shattered the silence. Boots thundered down the hall. "Intruder alert! All units converge on Section 7. Cygnus and Lyra sprinted for the exit, but a squad of Ocampa troops cut them off. At their head stood a tall figure, his bearing regal despite his military uniform. "Zephyr," Lyra gasped. The colonel's eyes widened in recognition. "Sister? What madness is this?" "Zephyr, please," Lyra pleaded, stepping forward. "You don't understand what's really happening. The monarchy, they're—" "Silence!" Zephyr roared. "You dare betray your own people? And for what? These savages?" Cygnus tensed, ready to fight, but Lyra's voice rang out, clear and desperate. "They're planning to exterminate humanity, brother. Billions of innocent lives." She projected the stolen data, horrific images flickering between them. "Is this what we've become? Genocidal monsters?" Doubt clouded Zephyr's face. His grip on his weapon faltered. "It's not too late," Lyra pressed. "Help us stop this, for the sake of both our peoples." Long seconds ticked by. Then with a shuddering sigh, Zephyr lowered his weapon. "What do you need?" On Earth, the atmosphere in the Human Alliance Council chamber crackled with tension. Admiral Silas Vance's fist slammed onto the polished table. "Every moment we waste in debate is a moment the Ocampa use to prepare our destruction," he thundered. "We must strike first, and strike hard." Murmurs of assent rippled through the assembly. But Ambassador Reyes rose, his voice calm yet forceful. "And risk igniting a war that could consume the galaxy? No, there must be another way." The Admiral sneered. "Still clinging to your dreams of peace, Reyes? Wake up! The Ocampa want us dead." "Not all of them," Reyes countered. "We have allies among their people. If we can expose the truth at the Galactic Council—" "A fool's errand," Vance scoffed. As the argument raged, Lieutenant Marcus Vance slipped away from Earth's defenses. His mouth set in a grim line as his stealth craft breached Theseus's atmosphere. His father might favor brute force, but Marcus knew the power of information. The opulent halls of the Ocampa Palace felt suffocating as Marcus crept through shadows. He froze as voices drifted from a nearby chamber. The humans suspect nothing, Emperor Zartok's silky voice purred. Once the weapon is deployed, their pitiful colonies will wither and die, and we shall inherit the stars. Cruel laughter echoed as Marcus's blood ran cold. He had to warn. A meaty hand clamped onto his shoulder. Marcus spun, coming face to face with the scarred visage of General Zorn. Well, well, Zorn sneered. What have we here? Marcus didn't hesitate. His fist lashed out, catching Zorn in the jaw. The Ocampa general stumbled back, then lunged with a roar. They grappled fiercely, crashing through priceless artifacts. Marcus fought with the desperation of a man who knew the fate of his species hung in the balance. With a final brutal effort, he slammed Zorn's head against a marble column. The general crumpled. Panting, Marcus staggered to his feet. Alarms blared in the distance. He ran. As his ship punched through Theseus's atmosphere, Marcus allowed himself a grim smile. Let his father rage about preemptive strikes. The truth would be their most powerful weapon. On Axiom, delegates from 100 worlds converged. Cygnus and Lyra huddled with their allies, finalizing plans. In hours, the humanity's fate would be decided. No matter what happens, Cygnus said softly, we've done all we can. Lyra's hand found his, squeezing gently. Together, she whispered. The great doors of the council chamber yawned open. It was time. Time. The chamber fell silent as Ambassador Reyes approached the podium, his steps measured and deliberate. Cygnus felt the air grow heavy, charged with an invisible tension that made the hairs on his neck stand on end. Reyes gripped the edges of the lectern, his squeezing hard. Esteemed delegates, he began, his voice low but carrying to every corner of the vast hall. For too long, humanity has suffered under Ocampa oppression. We have endured raids on our colonies, the slaughter of innocents, and the constant threat of annihilation. As Reyes spoke, his words seemed to resonate within Cygnus's very bones. He glanced at Lyra, whose blue eyes were wide with a mixture of awe and trepidation. But no more, Reyes continued, his volume rising. We stand here today with irrefutable proof of the Ocampa monarchy's plans for genocide against our entire species. Emperor Zartok's laughter cut through the air like a knife. Preposterous! These are the ravings of a species desperate to cling to relevance. We have no need to exterminate vermin. A low growl rose from the human delegates. Cygnus felt something building, an invisible pressure in his skull. Reyes's face contorted with awe-inspiring rage. Vermin? He snarled. Was my wife vermin when your troops gunned her down? Were the children of New Eden vermin when you glassed their world? The pressure intensified. Cygnus saw other humans wincing, rubbing their temples. On the far side of the chamber, Admiral Silas Vance suddenly clutched his head and screamed. He collapsed to his knees, eyes wild with terror. No! Not again! Vance howled. Sarah! The children! As if a dam had burst, human delegates began to rise, their faces twisted in fury, in grief, in primal rage. Reyes's voice thundered above the growing cacophony. We will not be silenced. We will not be erased. Humanity demands justice. The pressure in Cygnus's head exploded outward. A visible wave of energy rippled through the air, slamming into the alien delegates. He saw Kual representatives writhing in their seats, tentacles lashing wildly. The Kalar delegation roared in agony, their usually impenetrable exoskeletons cracking under the psychic assault. Emperor Zartok's smugness evaporated, replaced by naked fear. General Zorn reached for his sidearm, but his arm spasmed uselessly. Only Colonel Zephyr seemed to weather the storm, his face a mask of relentless drive as he moved to shield his sister. The wave expanded beyond the council chambers, beyond Axiom itself. Cygnus felt it stretching across light years, touching every human mind. In that moment, he knew with terrifying certainty that nothing would ever be the same. As the initial surge faded, Cygnus struggled to his feet. The chamber was in chaos. Alien delegates lay twitching or sat catatonic in their seats. He saw Rhea slumped over the podium, spent but somehow triumphant. "Commander!" Lyra's voice cut through the din. "We need to move. Now!" Cygnus nodded, his training kicking in, despite the lingering disorientation. He tapped his comm unit. "All teams, execute contingency Omega. I repeat, Omega is in effect." As they raced from the chamber, alarms blared throughout the station. The great fury had been unleashed, and the galaxy would tremble in its wake. "Wake!" Cygnus's ears rang as he sprinted through Axiom's corridors, Lyra close behind. The station shuddered, emergency klaxons piercing the chaos. "We need to get to the hangar," he shouted over his shoulder. "Our window's closing fast." They rounded a corner, nearly colliding with a group of stunned Kalar delegates. The aliens' chitinous armor bore hairline fractures, oozing ichor from the psychic assault. Cygnus didn't slow down, shouldering past them without a second glance. The hangar bay was pandemonium. Ships of all sizes lifted off in a frenzied rush to escape. Cygnus spotted their shuttle, relief flooding through him as he saw the rest of his strike team already aboard. "Go! Go!" he yelled, practically shoving Lyra up the ramp before leaping in himself. The hatch sealed with a hiss as the engines roared to life. Through the view screen, Cygnus watched Axiom recede, its gleaming superstructure marred by explosions. He allowed himself a moment to breathe, to process the magnitude of what had just occurred. "It's really happening," Lyra whispered, her blue eyes wide. "The great fury—" Cygnus nodded grimly. "And Theseus is next." The journey was a blur of tense silence and frantic preparations. When they dropped out of hyperspace, the Ocampa homeworld loomed before them, its once impregnable orbital defenses in disarray. "They're in chaos," Lieutenant Vega reported from the helm. "The psychic wave disrupted their entire command structure." Cygnus leaned forward, studying the tactical display. "Then we strike now, while they're vulnerable. All ships form up on us. We're taking the fight to Zartok's doorstep." The shuttle shuddered as they entered the atmosphere, part of a swarm of human and rebel Ocampa vessels. Below, Theseus's capital sprawled in gleaming magnificence, its towering spires piercing the clouds. Anti-aircraft fire erupted around them, filling the sky with deadly light. Cygnus gritted his teeth as their pilot executed a series of gut-wrenching evasive maneuvers. "There!" Lyra pointed to a massive structure of crystal and metal. "The Royal Palace!" Cygnus nodded. "All units, concentrate fire on the outer defenses. Clear us a path." Explosions blossomed across the palace's shield generators. The barrier flickered and died, leaving the heart of the Ocampa Empire exposed. Their shuttle touched down hard on a grand plaza, scorched and cratered by the assault. Cygnus led the charge down the ramp, his strike team fanning out behind him. The air crackled with psychic energy, setting his nerves on edge. A squad of Imperial guards rushed to meet them, energy weapons blazing. Cygnus reached out with his mind, feeling the familiar surge of power. With a gesture, he sent the guards flying, their bodies crumpling against a nearby wall. "This way!" Lyra shouted, leading them deeper into the palace. They fought their way through opulent corridors, past priceless artifacts now reduced to rubble. Cygnus's team moved with ruthless efficiency, their human fury amplified by newfound psychic abilities. A massive set of doors loomed before them, ornately carved with scenes of Ocampa supremacy. Cygnus shared a look with Lyra, steeling himself for what lay beyond. "Together," he said softly. She nodded, commitment etched on her face. With a combined psychic push, they blasted the doors open. The throne room stretched out before them, a cavernous space of impossible grandeur. And there, seated upon a chair of living crystal, was Emperor Zartok himself. The Ocampa ruler rose slowly, his eyes burning with centuries of hatred. "So," he snarled, "the monkeys have learned a new trick." Cygnus stepped forward, power crackling around him like almost unchecked lightning. "It's over, Zartok. Your empire ends today." Zartok's laughter was cold and cruel. "Foolish child, You have no idea of the forces you're dealing with. The air between them shimmered as Zartok unleashed a wave of dark energy. Cygnus threw up a hasty psychic shield, but the impact still sent him staggering backward. "Cygnus!" Lyra cried out, moving to support him. He regained his footing, gritting his teeth against the onslaught. Zartok's power was unlike anything he'd ever faced, a maelstrom of malevolence honed over millennia. Cygnus pushed back, drawing on every ounce of his newfound abilities. The two minds clashed in a titanic struggle, reality itself seeming to warp around them. But Zartok was relentless, his hatred fueling an endless barrage. Cygnus felt his defenses crumbling, his consciousness threatening to shatter under the assault. Just as he thought all was lost, he felt Lyra's presence beside him. Her mind touched his, a beacon of light in the storm. "Together," she whispered, both aloud and in his thoughts. Their energies merged, human and Ocampa united in purpose. Cygnus gasped as he felt Lyra pouring everything she had into him, her strength, her dreams, her very essence. With a cry of mingled grief and triumph, Cygnus unleashed a psychic blast of unimaginable power. Zartok's eyes widened in shock as the wave struck him. For a moment, he stood frozen, mouth agape in a silent scream. Then in a blinding flash of light, the Emperor of the Ocampa simply ceased to be. The backlash sent Cygnus flying. He hit the ground hard, his entire body aflame with pain. Through blurred vision, he saw Lyra crumple beside him, her form already starting to fade. "No!" he choked out, reaching for her with a trembling hand. Lyra smiled weakly, her eyes full of an impossible future. "It was worth it," she whispered, "for both our peoples." As consciousness slipped away, Cygnus felt the galaxy shift beneath him. The Ocampa Empire had fallen, but the true challenge was just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.